Welcome to Inside the Upside Down. We're going to be talking trigger objects here tonight. I'm author and ghost story Mike Ricksecker. With me is Shauna Wonkel, our chat shenanigator from Edge of the Rabbit Hole, and a fantastic writer in her own right. This was really inspired. This has kind of been a series here that we've been doing. Really inspired by Zara the Zombie Doll. So we did a Friday Night Ghost Frights featuring her, which we're going to talk about here. We did a Haunted Dolls episode, and now we're doing trigger objects because more of what we experienced was a trigger object moment. So first off, though, something we need to get out of the way, and something that some of you may have noticed here on the Facebook page for Haunted Road Media, as well as the IGTV thing that we put out there. This guy needs a name. So what the deal is for the next, a couple weeks or whatever, we're going to go ahead and take suggestions on names, and some of you have already submitted some very interesting ones. And we're going to pick like 5 or 6 of our favorites out of that, and then we're going to have a poll and let you guys choose which one should be the skeleton's name. He's been around for a while. I've had him for just about a year now, and he's been a part of Friday Night Ghost Frights for a while. We've been having him here on Inside the Upside Down episode or 2, and well, he needs a name. We've got, we've got Ghostie. This dude needs a name. So there we go. All right. Also, please check us out this coming weekend at the Afterlife Paranormal Conference in DeKalb, Illinois. We really appreciate it if you guys come out. So I heard Tom McNicholas was spreading some rumor that I was speaking at 7:30 p.m. So I guess I'm speaking at 7:30.
I'm going to be manning the table.
Wouldn't you be womaning the table?
I would be womaning the table. Yeah. I mean.
All right. So I figured to start things off with, we'd show part of the clip that we posted on Friday Night Ghost Frights this past week, which has the incident with Zara the Zombie Doll, Mineral Springs Hotel, what happened to Shauna, all of that, the K2 meter, and we'll get into it. So let me go ahead and bring that up. And that is, where in it? Zara clip. There we go.
What do you think of the doll sitting over here? Do you like dolls at all?
Can you see the doll?
Let me look at it. I can actually see the doll.
Pretty sure the camera is not catching this, but the area around it, like shimmer.
Yeah,
a little bit, like
it's from the heat waves.
That's what I was seeing in between me and the doll.
Really? That pegged out to 3, and now it's at 1. I saw it just boom. It's been flickering at 2, boom, went to 3, and now it's at 1. While we were sitting here talking about that right now.
Molly?
Can you hear this, Molly? Our EMF is gone. Oh, it's right here in the middle. You okay? What did you feel?
I don't know. It was just really sad. My throat started closing up.
We got a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas who says, "Shit happens, but we still love you guys." Yeah, a lot of shit goes down. So So yeah, really kind of interesting because we had the well, you primarily had the interaction with Molly in that room before, and so we were up there to investigate her, kind of impromptu, um, and really, Zero's just kind of sitting there on the chair, and really hadn't done much with her. I mean, the interesting thing with the K2 was, we went in there, we had that baseline measurement, and it kind of like was wavering there for a while, just sitting there in front of Zara, and then when we asked about the doll, it was the first time we had asked about the doll, and you saw me move the chair and all that stuff. We asked about the doll, and you saw that shimmer, and then all of a sudden that K2 spiked out and then dropped down to nothing. It didn't even go back to the baseline that we'd established. It went all the way down to nothing, and then all of a sudden you felt what you felt and you were crying.
Yeah, it just came from out of nowhere. I never predict stuff like that, of course, but just all of a sudden my, throat started tightening up, closing up. Probably I was obviously getting ready to cry. I didn't realize, but then all of a sudden I was just so sad. And maybe maybe it triggered something in her. Maybe she used to have a doll. Maybe she, who knows? I don't even know who she is or why she's in that building.
Yeah, we don't know much about her yet. Just a name.
Yeah.
But we've routinely in that room have experienced paranormal activity, and it has always seemed like a girl or a female, maybe a woman, whatever, somebody of the female persuasion in that room.
Yeah. And somebody had said my name in there, and I had always assumed that maybe it was Pearl up there because we had gotten to know her, more than anybody. We were, interacting with her more than anyone upstairs. And then, they had said, that there's another room that a child of some kind was in. And, I kind of felt like she was, I felt like it was a female. But I really wasn't picking up much more than that from her. So, I just went with who I was feeling the most, and that was Pearl at the time. And then somebody, a female voice, had said my name in the room where we met. I say Molly. I assume that's her name until I hear otherwise. It was definitely a confirmation, the burst of energy that came after I said the name, which came from out of nowhere in my head. I have no idea. And so she's Molly until she says otherwise or until we find her.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do whatever research that we can. Not optimistic, just because you're talking about a semi-common name, and we're not even really sure of a time frame to try to track her down at. So, I mean, we'll see what we can do, as far as just, hitting up some different databases or newspaper archives or whatever, and just seeing if there's like any Molly whatsoever connected with the Mineral Springs Hotel. But it may not even be her, real full name or anything like that. It could just be a nickname. And there's really, I mean, how many thousands and thousands of people go in and out of hotels all the time, and there's no way to know years later. So, so Karen Whitaker asks, have you left Molly a doll or toy?
I mean, I haven't left her anything yet, only because, I'm not sure of the age that I'm dealing with. I don't feel like it's a child.
No, it seems
I feel like
maybe young woman at least.
Yeah, she's younger than me, I feel like.
Yeah. There is a girl up there that's that's young, and they've left toys up there for her and stuff like that. And the impression that's been given, I think Bree Jones is the one that picked up on it, is that she's a child, a little bit of an older child, like maybe around 11 years old or whatever, but doesn't want to be known as a child. Like, she wants to be a little bit more grown up than she is. So the fact that people try to play dolls with her and stuff like that, she doesn't necessarily care for.
Right.
So Adam Tiller's actually has drawn a illustration of her for the Next Encounters with the Paranormal book. So Hey, Adam, if you're watching, please email those to me. So I know you finished them, but just we need them scanned in and over to me. So I'm taking care of business here. And then, of course, there's Pearl up there. So it seems like there's 3 female spirits that primarily haunt up there.
Right.
So and Betty Lange's asking, who is Molly? Well, that's the good question.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, during the Paranormal Media Paracon last year, the investigation was kind of winding down, you know. It was hot upstairs, and we were in the room where we had heard my name before, and we were sitting there just question and answer, and I felt, you know, some different energy come in. So I was like, you know, trying to, you know, kind of focus. You know, there's other people on the same floor, and there's noises going on and stuff like that. So trying to concentrate, and the letter M floats through my head for some reason. And so I asked, you know, does your name start with M? You know, and the energy definitely changed. And there was a, you know, pretty good, you know, poke on my arm. And so I was like, oh, you know. And then, you know, I remember kind of closing my eyes and trying to filter through the stuff that was going through my head, because at that point I was like, okay, I've got an M, you know, what's going on now? And then I hear the name Molly just kind of float through my head. So I said, is your name Molly? And then the next thing I know, coming in from stage right, sorry, skeleton with no name. All of a sudden from stage right, you know, comes this wave of energy and like series of hard, you know, grabs on my arm, enough that I like practically jumped out of my seat and
into my lap.
And into his lap, pretty much.
But it was enough of a forceful energy that I actually felt pushed back too. So very interesting.
Yeah. And listen to the audio, and I need to listen to it again. But there were several bookmarks, you know, I had mentioned before.
He's so excited he passed out.
Yeah, again. I had mentioned before that, you know, there were several bookmarked EVPs of, it sounded like a woman trying to speak, but with something over her mouth, like she was just making, you know, muffled noises, like not actual. And there's a lot of them. I mean, like I had a pretty good list, you know, going before and after, you know, that. And I could hear a little bit of stuff. Was listening to it late at night with earbuds, which isn't really all the best to listen to EVPs with, but there's something going on before the wave came, but I couldn't really tell, you know, what it was. So I definitely need to listen to it again. And then there was something right after. So I'm hoping to follow up with that like really soon, and definitely try to get back up in there. And we just went up during the day.
Yeah.
You know,
we've done that before.
Mineral Springs is very busy now on the weekends. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And so it's hard to schedule, you know, when there's already events going on. So a lot of times we just show up and be like, oh, hey, do you guys want to go upstairs? Yeah, of course we do, you know. And that's how it happens. Just unscheduled, unplanned, impromptu, you know, investigations. In the first place I want to go, everybody else wants to go to the pool, you know. First place I want to go is upstairs.
Yep, she's been wanting to go to Molly's room.
Yeah, like so. I'd be happy just being just right there all day.
So we have some suggestions down there in the chat for the skeleton. I saw, D-Bone came from Karen Whitaker. B3 Aerospace has been calling him Rufus. And there's Candy with calcium. So Cal for short. So there's some nice ones in there, some good ones. So yeah, trigger objects. Oh, and Tom had a question in here. Did you ever find out anything on the ring we found in that room when we were there? I didn't find anything on it. So
still a mystery.
Yeah. So trigger objects. So I mean, this was a great example of one, which is, you know, why we've been, you know, talking at length about it, because it was like, you know, referencing the doll, and boom, something happens, which is kind of the idea of
Trigger object.
of a trigger object. So, and there's Snaggletooth. Hey, Patrick, good to see you with a Canadian $5 super chat. Hi, Mike and Shauna. Haunted Road Media is my favorite paranormal YouTube channel of all time. Thanks so much. We absolutely appreciate that, Patrick. It's fantastic. I hope you're feeling well tonight. So, and I saw something in there with Candy and broken toes. So I hope you feel better, Candy. So yeah, basically the idea of a trigger object is to use that object to try to trigger a response from the entity. A lot of people, it seems like a lot of people kind of get into there's a child that's supposed to haunt this room, so let's bring in all these toys. And I don't know how many different haunted locations that I've been to where you walk into a room and there's more rooms or more toys in the room than when I was a kid. And
Right.
It's like ridiculous sometimes. But they're there to try to get and entice that child spirit to play with something.
Another good one that we used to use on the goldenrod when it was still standing was ragtime music.
Yep, music will work.
Because, ragtime music played a lot. It was the predominant music there. And so we figured, maybe that would, trigger some of the old timers, there from the boat. And there was a lot of times that activity would, amp up. Then there was Chris Sutton, got up on stage and sang a little bit and performed.
Yeah, we have
that
that
was a
on
good
one of our
one.
videos. He went up there and did his cowardly lion act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And there it is from Sean Gilmore. Boner.
Oh no, Sean, that's what I said.
Yeah. And they got, there's some other ones to throw in. Imla Buddha 61, Ichabod, Kathy Saliento, Mr. Scully Bones. Nice. Pungai Fungi Bloody Bones. Squillfish says Bones McGee. So they must be because there's a delay in the video, so they must be at the part where we're talking about the names.
Boner. That was mine.
Yeah, Betty Lang is saying my trigger object was a pinwheel in a cemetery. Interesting. Ragtime music or any type of music to try to entice that. I mean, we did that, or we at least attempted to, and maybe it did garner a response when we were up there in the Goldenrod, and it was, I guess it was probably my second time there or something, or whenever it was, or it was a follow-up investigation that we did after my first time there, because we were specifically trying to interact with Annie. And the first time that I was there, we had the whole ear thing where she was blowing in my ear. So I had suggested, well, hey, how about we dance? Because it was up there on the dance floor. And so I was playing some music, and we saw that light anomaly come through the screen. You were off screen, but it went basically right toward you. And then like a moment later, there you are basically walking through the screen, you're crying. Almost kind of like the same thing that happened here. So that's one where I'm not sure if the music actually triggers something or if there's just something up there anyway,
Right.
And it affected you. So, but again, trying to use the music as a trigger object.
Yeah, because I mean, the music was kind of mellow, and stuff, but it kind of had like a little haunting, melody to it. But it wasn't anything that I would become sad listening to any other time, and then played it again and I listened to it and I was fine. So it wasn't Annie.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, I mean, she had gotten me before. But it didn't feel the same. And so, I mean, there's different, you can discern, one energy from another sometimes. Especially if it's one that you interact with a lot, so that, even just the slightest difference, you can tell, oh, this is something different. This is someone different. Or at least that's the way it is to me anyway.
There's some other suggestions in there. One-Eyed Willie. We'd have to put a patch on him.
Give me a patch.
Mick Ribs. There's another one.
That's funny.
There might be some copyright infringement on that. I don't know. There's D Boner Stoner. Wow, you guys are funny. So, bless you.
Allergies.
Mr. Spock Bones. Bless you again. Scully. Okay, Scully.
Scully.
So Donna's keeping track here. She says we have a Ichabod, Boner McRibs, Mr. Spock, Bones, D. Boner Stoner. Yeah. Yeah, Tom McNicholas had Yorick. So, we're going to, like I said, we're going to pick like 5 or 6 of our favorites from the list that you guys give, and then we'll do a poll. So, Betty Lange says Captain Bones Goldenrod. So, another one that I like to use a trigger object is history. And it's one of the reasons why I like going into a location knowing as much as I can about a location. And I understand with psychic mediums like Vanessa or what have you, where they don't want to know anything going in because it's basically part of what they do. Otherwise, if they know too much, they're going to go in and somebody could just fake playing off of the little bit of information that they've been given. So I understand that from a psychic medium's perspective. However, for someone like me, I'm going to use that information to try to interact with the person. I think it's better to know a little bit about who it is that you're dealing with, because otherwise it's just like you're going door to door selling something is kind of what I usually relate it to. And you have no idea who's there at the house, and you're just knocking on the door, and you're trying to sell, hey, talk to me. Where if you show up and you know something about the person, you have like an immediate rapport with them. Still might take a little while for them to warm up with you because you still are a new person, but by knowing something about them going in there, you can relate to them a little bit better, and you might be able to key in on something that they really want to talk about. People want to talk about things that they are, or want to talk about things that they are interested in. So, if you know that this person, liked, was a big baseball fan, you can go in there talking baseball or whatever. An example I like to use a lot is at a old Army hangar in a World War II airplane that saw action during World War II. Actually was in battles. We were in there in the plane trying to do some EVP work. We had K2 sitting there and things like that. And nothing, no responses until I finally said something about having been in the Air Force, and I knew it came out of the old Army Air Corps, which it was the Army Air Corps that flew during World War II. And so kind of went down that path, something relatable to the spirits that was there. And then boom, all of a sudden K2 started spiking out and was responsive to the questions that we were asking. So that's using history and information of a location to trigger a response. So Bree Jones says bucket list, would love to be in a World War II airplane. Yep, it was pretty cool because they don't usually let people in there. Okay, and that's Donna's list. I was just scrolling up to see if there are any questions. So another one that I wanted to throw out there, because people talk about using the Boo Bear or the parapooch, which I know Sean Gilmore's down there in the chat, and he happens to have a parapooch. And I have a clip. This is actually part of the video that's going to be posted on Friday. So this Friday, instead of a just traditional Friday Night Ghost Frights, I'm going to finish up and post the next paranormal investigation video, which is Old Licking County Jail. And this is a clip from that with 2 parapooches. One from Sean Gilmore, one from Sabrina Myers. So let's go to that. It's kind of interesting what was going on there.
Remember that? Maybe you can pet the other dog. Yeah, it does not want to. The other dog in a piece. Yep, every time. Is there something you're trying to tell us? You have a message for us? Touch the other dog if the dog is there. Please. There it is. Now it's in that chair. It's mad. You move the dog. You move the big dog from the, higher ground there. Now, no. is it? So that's the deal? It's the sheriff?
Okay, it was kind of weird. It was kind of herky-jerky on our end, which is a little different. But you got a glimpse there of the parapooches in action. And what was interesting about this is, like, we were just like saying, yeah, we're gonna go touch this one dog, and then boom, the thing would go off. It seemed, and Sean, you can talk about it a little bit down in there too. It seemed like it was actually more related to the chair, because you saw when we switched it up that it was the other dog sitting on the chair then that would just suddenly, start having reactions. And it was always like, okay, we're gonna go touch the one dog, and then boom, it would go off. So we were just kind of saying what we were gonna do, and then there it went. As far as like proximity and things like that, we had those parapooches up in one of the cells at another point in the evening, actually before all of that. And they were, we were standing there like right in front of them, moving around, and they're not going off at all. They were totally dead when we had them in the cell block. But in that room, which they call David's room, it was just like crazy. So, and I know Sean had his dog in there before, because he'd been to Old Lincoln County Jail before and had quite a bit of interaction with the parapooch in there. So David apparently likes dogs or something. So, but that's kind of the whole idea is, the spirit is going to reach out, maybe try to pet the dog or what have you, and set off the chimes or whatever inside of it. Same thing with the Boo Bear, and Tom McNicholas saying that he has a Boo Bear. Kind of the same thing. So a child spirit would reach out to the stuffed animal, and then boom, it would go off. So Karen Whitaker, perhaps where the parapooch is on metal chairs, perhaps that's why it was going off. I think it was a metal chair, but it would be just dead silent, and then all of a sudden we would just like say, well, we're gonna go, touch the thing, and boom, it would go off. So I don't know. And then we would have it at times where the one on the floor would occasionally, but it was like only under certain circumstances. So there was only like a couple of snippets of what happened. I have the whole long segment that'll be published on Friday. So Bree Jones, what did that scare a child if it went off when they approached it? I don't know. I had toys that lit up when I was a kid.
Yeah, my thing is with child spirits and toys, if it's not one that was around during their time, you want to explain what it is that you've got for them and explain what might happen, and for them not to be afraid of it. We don't even know if they can see it.
Right.
So telling spirits to talk into lights and stuff like that, you can't really do that. You can, but we don't even know if they could see the light. It may be such a thing as like we can't really see them sometimes. So it could be the thing where they might not be able to see what we're talking about, but they might be able to feel the energy that it's giving off. They can tell that there's something different, there. So you explain it to them, or if it's something you're holding, you tell them, hey, this is me, this is where I am, this is what I'm holding, this is where I'm holding it, so if you come over here and you see it, feel it, whatever, don't be afraid of it, because it's not going to hurt you, but at the same time, it'll let me know, that you're close by. So.
And Sean is saying, in order for them to go off, talk about the parapooches again, you have to literally be an inch away from the dog. Yeah, you have to be pretty close. B3 Airspace is cute. Whoever said this was a guy. She suggested Bona Lisa.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I know.
There's not the typical anatomy, so.
Well, they're supposed to be able to tell by the hips.
Those look like childbearing hips.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's a dude.
I don't know.
Betty Lange, are not the spirits supposed to pick up on the energy? This is from Donna Gordon. Candy says that connectivity issues may be because of that presidential alert test tomorrow, that it's not just cell towers but also internet providers affected.
I missed something.
I guess presidential alerts. I don't know.
Oh.
So if that's affecting the internet connection, well, yeah. We have had, what was it, the State of the Union night. We got affected. But Betty Lange's question about spirits supposed to pick up on the energy. Well, it's not. In that case, with like a Boo Bear or a Parapooch or whatever, they're not emanating energy. Those are supposed to be, like detecting that energy, like in very, very close proximity. So I always have this thing anyway that I don't think that the spirits are out there, like detecting energy, that they're like, oh, this is a source of energy for me to like tap into and manifest. I don't think they get that at all. Otherwise, I think they'd just be sticking their finger into a wall outlet and charging up and then manifesting. So, I don't think it works like that. I don't. You have opinion?
Yeah. And even if it did work like that, they seem to have this aversion to us seeing them most of the time. So they're probably staying clear the hell away from that. At the cafe, we used to read books a lot, children's books. But sometimes we would read stuff that's kind of, between. We try to, pinpoint the different age groups that we thought were in there. And
we recently did that at Cheney House with Ron Turner.
Right.
So, Snaggletooth Patrick saying, "How about Skeletor?" So Bony Wan Kenobi. So they're gonna be throwing names at us all night. And so what else about trigger objects? It's always kind of been the old standbys, like a ball for the kids and what have you. Or some good ones that we've used before. I always like just use information, and that's my big one. And you said be careful about the talking into the light thing, which I think a lot of people kind of make the mistake of falling into, where they almost like try to use the devices as a trigger object, where a lot of times they don't even have any idea what these things are. So
yeah, if you're going to use one, I've said it a million times. If you're going to use something like that, you have to remember that stuff might not have been around whenever they were, and it's going to chase them away. They're either going to be curious about it or it's going to chase them away. But either way, you need to kind of, set the stage for what they're going to be dealing with. So explain it to them, so that way, if you are dealing with a kid or someone that might think it's blasphemous for you to use something like that and start throwing rocks at you, that's witchcraft. Explain it to them.
Yeah. Bree Jones is asking, have you guys ever tried pendulums as trigger objects? I think some people find them a little kitschy. Not really as a trigger object, as a mode of communication. I just recently came into possession of a pendulum. I've attempted it twice, but I could see how it could like really easily be manipulated. So I wouldn't necessarily use it on like an investigation that I'm going to post here on YouTube, because there's too many people that are going to question whether or not it's legit, because just the, while you're holding it, like just a little bit of, movement or vibration can make it, turn in a, different direction or what have you.
I'm one of those people.
Kind of like what you think about dowsing rods. But for, my own personal use, if I learned how to use it a little bit better and all that, I'm going to be honest with myself, so if it's like, I'm truly holding the thing, without any movement and it's moving on its own, it's like, okay, then I know. But for somebody, watching it on the internet, they're still going to think, yeah, no, which is why it's so hard for anybody using dowsing rods or anything like that to, really kind of portray themselves as legit, even though my friend, Copperhead uses dowsing rods a lot, and I trust him. A lot of people look at that and they're like, nope, because too many people have manipulated them in the past, so it becomes difficult. So Another one from Betty Lange. So you feel spirits stay in the time that they die?
That's always been a burning question.
Yeah,
Really.
that's a good question.